Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast, where Tom Lydon and his band of experts make money talk exciting. Here's your host, Tom Lydon.
Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast. Life is short. We've got to keep things simple. Use your time to focus on what's most important. That's what Bangers Only is all about. I'm Tom Lydon, and today on the Bangers Only podcast, we've got personal finances power couple, the people actually who walk the love and money talk. It's Doug and Heather Boneparth. Hey guys, thank you for being with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, congratulations on your new book, Money Together. It looks like it's going to be a real blockbuster. It looks like you guys are having some fun.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and it's awesome to be at this point.
It is. It's kind of like all the things all at once now. You know, it's like when you work really hard at something, and then it finally comes out into the world. It's been a whirlwind.
The moment's really fun and really great, but it's really just the beginning of really the work that's going to be done here in this space. So we're excited for that as well. It's all gas, no brakes.
Well, that's great. And for people that don't know you, Doug, you're the founder of Bonafide Wealth. People see you regularly on CNBC. You're kind of a social media maverick along with Heather. Heather, you're a lawyer turned writer who kind of tells the truth about marriage, money, and modern life on the Joint Account Substack. That's your Substack, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And together, you put money together. But who was really leading the charge behind that?
This is my show for sure.
All right.
When it comes to this book, I mean,
top billing for Heather.
These are issues that are near and dear to my heart. They are concepts and issues that we've experienced and worked through in our own marriage, in our lives individually, and then together. And you know, this was kind of something that I was incredibly intrigued and interested in exploring. And like, well, if we faced some of these issues, what's everybody else doing? And I'm just going to start talking to as many people as I possibly can about this and see what we learn. And that's kind of how this was born. And but it was a team effort.
It doesn't seem. So Heather, the great thing about this book is you had the chance to talk to a lot of couples. Were they forthright? Were they honest? Maybe give a story that you learned from some that you were really surprised about.
You know, what was interesting was we learned as much from what couples didn't say as from what they did. So you can kind of start to get an idea on a couple's dynamic between one another, who was speaking more, who was more forthcoming, who kind of seemed uncomfortable with being there. I mean, there were many instances where that was the case. You know, I mean, there were interesting stories left and right. I mean, one of the things that I tried to do when I was speaking with couples, where if one spouse, typically more often if there was a male spouse who was kind of like trying to like flex their financial knowledge and really dominate the conversation, I would make it a point at one point in the interview to direct the questions at their female spouse. And I would say, well, tell me a little bit about your life. Tell me about how you spend your time. Tell me about your responsibilities at home. And I would start asking kind of questions that I knew would be a gateway to involve them in the conversation and kind of tap them into what was happening rather than whatever narrative they may have come in thinking that we were going to be asking about. Like that's the interesting thing is like, yeah, nobody really knew what to expect, but there were definitely some couples who joined us because they know Doug on the internet. There's some like finance bros that came on who were interested in kind of like flexing their financial knowledge to Doug. So I wanted to really get past that, and we did almost every time. But it was interesting to get there. We definitely got there in different ways.
Heather, in the book, you talk about like kind of structuring questions, prompts, conversation starters to help couples talk about, you know, the difficult aspects of money. And rather than insisting on splitting the money 50-50 or the responsibilities 50-50, you kind of define fairness because there are other aspects in a relationship besides just handling the money, right?
That's right. I think that when you focus too hard on keeping things even, rather than this idea of fairness to us, we've defined as making room, in the sense that you're making room for one another. That is not just a financial statement. That is not just a financial goal. Making room for one another means making room for everyone to spend time the way they'd like to spend time, to have their opinions known, to have their goals and their dreams met. It's about making room for everything. It's about making room for that person as an individual in the relationship. So that's why when we talk about fairness, we're not just talking about, well, you put in $20 to this, so I should put $20 in too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's not
it's not practical. Like you get
right.
to a certain part of your life and you start going down this 50-50 road and everything. Not only you just start playing a game of tit for tat and start keeping score with your partner, which is not great for your relationship long term. But it just doesn't scale well, right? Especially when you bring kids into the picture. I mean, there's just some things you can't divide up down the middle. So, from a practicality standpoint, and from this notion of making space,
You want relationships to be communal,
yeah,
right? You want to respond to the other person's needs, not just be trying to meet them with, well, you
yeah.
got 30 minutes here, I want 30 minutes here, or you put $5,000 from your paycheck into that, I have to put 5,000 into that.
Championship teams don't win from every player on the team getting the same amount of time,
That's right.
right? So
Right.
in this way, you're also not going to win if you're trying to just make sure everything is even.
So, Doug, when you look back on those couples, and you probably had some favorite couples, those that really nailed it, what were the key traits that they had that you could identify?
Absolutely. So the best couples were the best listeners. They listened to each other. They weren't interrupting each other. They made that space for their stories to be shared and to really get into the things that made up their identity with money. So they were critical listeners to one another. They also were empathetic, right? They really understood what feelings that their partner had around money and were able to take those feelings and adapt their own behaviors and habits when they knew that a certain thing maybe wouldn't fly or go over very well with their partner. It could be spending, it could be how much risk they take when they're investing and how they choose to chart a course forward. So great
They were
listeners.
accommodating, you mean?
Yeah, they were
Right.
accommodating, a lot of empathy.
Oh, I've got one.
Go for it.
They viewed their ambitions as collective. And I don't just mean from a career standpoint. I mean their ambition in life, whatever that looks like. My win is your win. Your win is my win. If this is important to you, then this is something we should go for.
Yeah, they knew.
That was
Yeah,
that was that was very apparent with some couples we spoke with. And I don't think it's a surprise they also were some of the most financially successful couples that we spoke with.
That's great. So you've got money or love. Which one causes the most fights in marriage, would you say, after going through this?
ooh,
I think that's one and the same in many instances because money is never just money.
yeah,
We affix feelings to money. That's why fights about money are often not about money at all, right? We behave certain ways around money because we associate the way we act with money with feelings of um trust or insecurity or or independence or even control in dark circumstances, darker situations. Like, so I don't know if it's an either or. It's kind of like some of the conflicts that we saw surfacing in our interviews and in the stories that we heard really were relationship conflicts that manifested through money.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
would, I would
So
add, I would,
go ahead.
yeah, no, I would just say that you can have all the love in the world and you can have all the money in the world. And if you're not communicating around either of these things about your relationship or about how you feel around money, you can get really lost in it. So
Yeah.
it's not an abundance thing or a quantity thing. It really boils down to how effectively you're communicating around either one.
Okay. So, Doug, in your professional opinion, what's sexier, a six pack or a fully funded Roth IRA? What do you think?
Not much of a beer. If you said tequila, I'd probably go with the bottle of tequila in a heartbeat. But that's only
May have meant a six-pack like abs.
no. I think he meant a 6 pack of beer. No, he did mean abs, didn't he?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Hey,
Happy hour
can I,
somewhere.
can I ask you to go beyond? I mean, you talked a lot about couples that were, younger couples or couples been around for a while. I'm towards, the other end of the spectrum. I've got a lot of friends that are retired. I am a Medicare, Medicaid proud card holder at this point. But a lot of the things that you talk about still apply because, especially people that took the traditional stance in relationships, especially regarding money, they're still not fixed. I'm not sure if you guys saw the article in the Wall Street Journal this weekend about a woman in New York. She woke up one morning and her husband of 80 was dead next to her. And it took her a year to figure out whether they had money or not, where it was, or if they were going to be okay. And it was a really excellent article because she just never handled the money. She was more right brain oriented. She never had interest in the money. And there was never any insistence that she really get clued into what was going on. Do you find that quite often?
I think that's one of the main reasons and inspirations for writing this book was learning that one of the greatest challenges wealth management firms, companies, banks, whatever face is what happens when that 80-something-year-old male client dies and you have their spouse left in the dark and unable to navigate their financial life. Not only is this sad for that widow, but it is also a loss leader for the institution that once had a great relationship. But I want to talk more about the widow in this instance, who is now in a bind to where
And
they,
in grief
yep,
and
Yeah.
trying to recreate their entire financial life from scratch.
and the people that were there to help them, that did not include them in the meeting, are either dead or not willing to take the time and energy to bring that person from zero back up to having the acumen to be able to navigate their life. We heard that stat. We heard this from the mouth of executives, and we looked at each other and said, again, how sad is that? And B, there is a opportunity to fix this problem. This is not a problem just for institutions. This is a problem for families, for individuals, for couples.
And it's not just a problem for young people. And that's what's so
Yeah,
interesting is that Doug and I have different whys for approaching this project. For him, this is his why. For me, it's about caregivers and women feeling seen from an even younger age who kind of are at that critical moment
yeah.
where many women do step away from the involvement in their finances because, frankly, a lot of them find their way there because they were overloaded with the invisible and visible burdens of parenthood. And some of them are trying to saddle or balance that
It's a really
and
good
their
point.
time in
That,
the workforce.
yeah,
I'm approaching it from the front end. He's approaching it from, I see how this plays out.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Heather, you give some advice on how couples can't get into that situation, whether it's not just the questions you ask or like having money dates or things like that. What are a couple really simple things that couples can do to make sure they don't get into that situation?
I think that you need to start communicating in a way that allows for both of you to feel comfortable enough to ask the questions you need to ask. And that might involve meeting your partner where they are. Not just saying, this is the way I've always done this. This is the way our advisor presents it to us. Well, here it is. Here's the
Let's force
4-page
this down your throat. Yeah.
if that is not something that resonates with your partner, well, maybe there's another way that does. and being willing to meet them either where they are, both in your own like financial life, or to even just gain interest in the topics around personal finance. There have never been more ways to consume information about personal finance than there are now. And they're all great on ramps to a conversation that eventually leads to you being more involved in your finances. It doesn't have to be 0 to 100. So meeting your partner where they are is a big piece of it.
We had a couple in the book who both were willing to learn, but every time the husband sat down with the wife, they never really got anywhere, and they began the conversations with spreadsheets and numbers on paper. And it wasn't until they brought out a whiteboard and started drawing out their financial life in pictures did it click. And I think it's a beautiful example how this idea of meeting your partner where they are and how they learn is truly a wonderful tool and a very effective way to start communicating around a topic that is tough to communicate around. That's why I love that one so much.
And I'd also say too that it's okay to delegate tasks between the two of you. Like we all have our roles, we all have our jobs. And you know, like in our family, like Doug will still drive the ship with our finances. He's a CFP.
Yeah.
This is what he does for a living. So these are the tasks, many of which he owns in our family. But that does not absolve me of my responsibility to know. Look, even if he was the CFO, if you go back to that article in the Wall Street Journal that came out a couple of years ago, see it, yeah, right. Who sits in what role? The executive leadership team still needs to meet.
Yeah,
right?
they still know the P&L. They know what's going on with the financials.
So the repetition of the quarterly meeting, and when we talk about money dates, we're not talking about sitting down every week. To us, quarterly is attainable. It's something you can do. It's something your calendar can accommodate and you can plan for and actually look forward to because you've got the bandwidth and the space to plan a lovely day or evening and give yourself as much time as you need because it's only once a quarter to really sit down and do this. And then over time, it might take more than 4 times for you to start feeling more comfortable. And okay, I really know where things are. I know where we're headed. I know where we've been and what we need to do. But then in 2 years, that's 8 times, then 12 times, you know, like, so over the course of your relationship and your lifetime together, you start that in your 40s. And by the time we're facing some of these issues we were just talking about, you are well versed enough to pick up where your spouse left off.
Well, I'll tell you, my wife and I have built up a lot of scar tissue over the years, and we could spend an hour telling all the stories. I know you folks have too. So what are some of the things that you learned along the path to get to the point where you are today? And I still have to assume that things aren't absolutely perfect. I'm sure Doug, even though his hair's perfect, I'm sure that he hasn't necessarily messed up financially occasionally, right?
The only thing that's perfect in this marriage is Doug's hair. That is true.
At least we can speak the truth here today.
It's true.
Exactly.
Heather usually starts this one, but I'll pick up on it. You know, I think it's not necessarily about the money and the finance. Heather's a smart girl. We can sit down and noodle out, spreadsheets and numbers, and she is an attorney. She knows the right questions to ask, believe you me. I think the mistake or thing that I needed to improve on was taking ownership over a lot of the mental and physical load that was taking place in our family. I don't think it was a, facts and figures numbers issue. I think it was a, how can we be more effective and efficient with our time so I can create the space for Heather to be engaged? Because I'll tell you, the one thing that Heather didn't need to worry about across all the things that was on her shoulders was the money. And that's a big point here.
Many women end up feeling
Yes.
that way.
This is how women get into this position. So for me, it was identifying what tasks in our lives that I could take ownership over beginning to end. Not, hey, what can I do now, honey? Just tell me what to do.
Yeah, there is no worse statement that you could make that a husband could make to his partner or any partner could make to their partner than tell me what to do and I'll do it.
That just throws now more on top of that. So I became swim dad. I took care of anything and everything having to do with our older daughter participating in her swim team. She gets to show up and cheer on her daughter. This is a big central part of our book when we think about contribution. And, it's giving a lot of Eve Rodsky, who is a wonderful contributor here, and her framework around how you take tasks in your household beginning to end.
And let me build off that. I think one of the other mistakes, and difficulties that not only we faced and had to overcome, but that many couples face is messaging. And you just touched on that point. I think many of us believe that the only way you can contribute is by earning money, and that anything other than that is not a contribution.
Or lesser than.
I think we all sell ourselves on certain messaging about whose time is worth more, whose opinion is worth more, based on how much money they earn. Because that is what our society views or has traditionally viewed as a contribution to the family, not everything else, which, by the way, is all critical for the infrastructure of a family to operate. So I think that it's not just about being exhausted, which is a piece of it, right? Like I was just so overloaded with working full time as a lawyer. We had two very small kids when COVID started, and I was kind of responsible for most of that. But the reason that we fell into this power dynamic that like almost totally crushed me was because I too had been telling myself stories about whose time had been worth more because one day we woke up and Doug was earning 3 times my salary. And so it was a very easy decision to make when we said, well, who should be sacrificing their time to take care of the kids? Well, obviously it's me because my job barely matters compared to his. And when you start to embed those messages into your marriage, into your relationship, they bleed into your finances too. And if it could happen to us, it could happen to
Yeah,
anyone.
no,
So
no kidding. I mean, I remember in the financial crisis, so I have an RIA that I still have, and I had started ETF trends. I built up people. We had a good advertising stream. Well, what's the first thing that goes when you have a bear market? ETF issuers aren't spending any money on advertising. And we had 2 kids in a Newport Beach private elementary school, and I'm having trouble coming up with the money. And my wife said to me, I don't care what we do. We can sleep on the lifeguard stand on the beach. Our kids are going to that school. Right. And I was the money guy. Like I'm responsible for it. So part of it was I had to, because I'd already always been the one responsible, and she didn't really have the interest of being part of that, didn't really realize how difficult that was. Hey, luckily we got through that. But I think those types of stories a lot of people can relate to and maybe come out the other side with, hey, that was painful. Like, let's not get ourselves in that same situation again if things go south, right?
and you brought up a great point, and we really took care. I feel like we took care in the book to show both sides of that situation that you just described. Because on one hand, you say, okay, we need to value caregivers, we need to value time, we need to view time holistically, with contributions of financial contributions, but also look at the weight on the other person's shoulders of not having an involved partner when it comes to money. Look what they may feel like they're bearing. Doug was thrilled when I said to him, "Hey,
I need to get into this.
distribute all of the household tasks so that I can be more involved in our finances again. I can help us make the critical decisions." He
Yeah.
was thrilled. So
Yeah.
I think it's a net benefit for everyone. This isn't just something about.
Yeah, the ticket to admission is getting uncomfortable for a while, and
That's
we
right.
get very comfortable as people. And you got to flip the script every now and then. These little changes all start to add up into really big changes that allow you to move forward in your relationship. And, Heather did an amazing job of being fair when it came to showing the sides of the relationship when we think about money.
Well, you guys telling these personal stories, because people don't. People are private, and you guys do that, and the good and the bad and the ugly, and you've always shared that, and it's just such a thrill. I have to say one thing. I've got kids in their late 20s now, and because we talk to them about money, my wife has been engaged and has learned the most in the last couple of years than she ever has, because she's not only looking at it through her lenses, but through the lenses of the kids. I believe your book can help that next generation in a huge way. So if you are older, planning on retirement, or in retirement, and you're thinking about your kids, grab the book for them, because there's some great things where you can, through the scar tissue that you guys have shared, maybe save them some angst, right?
But it's so true, man. If you are in a position to start these conversations at the early end of your relationship when you are just getting to know each other. Like, you shouldn't wait till you're engaged to start having these conversations. If you're seriously dating someone, you're thinking about having a future with them, there are ways to do this without opening up your personal
Yeah.
information and showing them your statements. There are other ways to do this. And that's what we wanted to show, that it's just as much like this is all very intimate. Money's
is.
intimate. These conversations are intimate, but they need to be happening. They are one and the same.
You know, our subtitle's very, very real in terms of what we want people to be, and it's truly to become an unstoppable financial team. And teams get better when they practice and they have discipline and they have consistency. This stuff is not easy. It's messy. It pulls on heartstrings and your past and trauma and heritage and on and on and on.
It's a lifetime game.
So
if you're lucky.
So if you play it well and you practice it, you will become that unstoppable financial team. You will be happier for it, and you just might get to those goals that you have for one another and together a lot faster. And to me, that would mean everything.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Congratulations on your book. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way? I know you're both heavily on X. Average Jolie. Is that right? Is that right, Heather?
Close. Almost.
It's close.
Joelle.
Average Joelle. But the
Average
the best place to find us is really by going to our book website, domoneytogether.com, because we link to all of our social on there. So that's the best place to find out more about the book, about us. You can sign up for our Substack, the joint account, through the book website. All of it's on domoneytogether.com.
All roads lead to domoneytogether.com, apparently. Yeah, no, that's the best spot.
They do. And thank you. And I know you guys carved out some family time to make this happen. So thank you. Enjoy your dinner. And I look forward to seeing you in person real soon.
See you soon, Tom.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific investment advice. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results.